Hello and welcome to another episode of the Blitz Talk Show, a bi-weekly talk show where we cover major news and scores in American football. Week 5 in the NFL just wrapped up this past weekend, so without further ado, let's get to it. We turn now to our NFL analyst, Aaron Heyman. So let's start off right now with this Tuesday night football matchup between the Buffalo Bills and the Tennessee Titans. The Titans with the blowout victory, 42-16. Ryan Tannehill with a very good game. But less than 200 total passing yards. Derrick Henry with a decent game, but again, he had less than 60 rushing yards. The Titans' defense is what stood out, especially the secondary, led by Malcolm Butler with 2 interceptions. The front 7 was fine, but only totaled 3 QB hits with 1 total sack on Josh Allen. And the Bills were without Tre'Davious White and John Brown for this game. Josh Allen threw 2 picks in this game, a rarity. He tripled his total for the entire year. So what's going on here? Is Josh Allen coming back down to earth, or is this the Tennessee defense really that good?
Well, I was really surprised to see how good the Titans defense was, especially after they were hit so much by COVID-19. I mean, they really played really well. They barely practiced this past week, and they really showed out. I think, Josh Allen, is still young, and he's going to have, some bad games throughout the year. Again, they're not going to go 16-0. The Bills are still a very good team. Again, they were missing, one of the best cornerbacks in the league and one of their receivers. But I also think Tannehill is great. Even though his stats don't jump off the board, he does everything he needs to do. I think that's what you want, especially if you're a run first team and a team that plays good defense. They're paying him to not make mistakes and to make the plays he needs to, and that's why they're winning games.
Of course, now we finally see the Bills. That was their first loss of the season. Now let's turn to this Miami-San Francisco game, another surprise of the weekend. What in the heck happened here? I mean, the Dolphins obliterated the Niners with a score of 43-17. Ryan Fitzpatrick had a nearly perfect passer rating, 154.5. Preston Williams, their number 2 receiver next to Devontae Parker, had another great game, over 100 receiving yards. The 49ers just crumbled, it seemed like. Jimmy Garoppolo was benched in this game after getting a contract where he's getting paid over $23 million a year. Do you think this was just to prevent an injury, or because Kyle Shanahan thought that C.J. Beathard actually gave the 49ers a better chance to win the game?
Definitely the latter. I mean, C.J. Beathard, I think at that point definitely gave him a better chance. But this doesn't mean Jimmy Garoppolo's career or his career as a Niners quarterback is over. The Dolphins are great. I think that they're one of the best. They were one of the best one-win team before this, because the 3 losses they had were against 3 great teams: the Patriots, the Bills, the Seahawks. They're really well coached. They showed it last year. No one thought they would win a game, and they won around 5. Brian Flores is great, and now with signing more guys in the defense and drafting better, this is, I think, a team that has a sneaky chance to make the playoffs, especially in an expanded postseason. Especially Fitzpatrick, is the Fitz magic and not the Fitzception, as people like to say, which he has been, this year. That team is really good. The defense is underrated. Even without Byron Jones past couple of weeks, they still play really well. 49ers are injured. They're not their best selves. So I think it was a well suited for the Dolphins to feast. The Niners, even when they get back fully healthy, I don't think that this is really a year where they can be contending again, kind of that Super Bowl slump that happens to a lot of teams. But they still got a lot of talent, and that defense will be good. They're just like a lot of their teams, they're hit with the injury bug.
Of course, now going back to the Dolphins, we looked earlier at the 2 different sides of Ryan Fitzpatrick. In a previous episode, we talked about that. This year, he's looking like a legitimate Pro Bowl candidate. Is this bad news for Tua Tagovailoa, who the Dolphins clearly spent high draft capital on?
No, I don't think it's bad news. I think, Tua was – they knew that Fitzpatrick was going to be the starter right away, and I think Fitzpatrick is on the older side. He's going to be gone soon enough to where Tua can step in, I think. Right now, Tua is getting a great quarterback to learn from, a real veteran who's been all around the league. And, maybe it'll give him a little bit less time, maybe that he would have started if Fitzpatrick wasn't playing as well, but he's still got a good future.
Of course. Now, turning to another Somewhat of a surprise, the Chargers and the Saints game. Now, the result may not have been a surprise, but the way that we got there it certainly was. Even though they lost the game, Justin Herbert shined once again for the Chargers. Without Keenan Allen for the majority of the game, no Austin Eckler, his best offensive lineman, Herbert was still stellar. Drew Brees on the Saints side was missing very easy throws. It was not just because he was without Michael Thomas, because he was even missing some slant routes. The Saints were very lucky to win this game because of the missed field goal by the Chargers. But is Drew Brees finally declining?
First, I'd like to say that this is like a replica of the Chargers game last week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They play so well. They're kind of the underdogs going into it, but they just can't close out. Whether it's so many different reasons, whether it's the defense tiring out, missed field goals. I think Badgley's a good kicker, but that happens sometimes. He barely missed it, or some mistakes on the offense. This is a must-win game for the Saints, though, especially for Drew Brees, who, yes, it does look like he's declining a little bit. I think that having Michael Thomas on the field definitely opens up the whole offense way more. But yeah, he is missing throws, especially downfield too. The arm strength doesn't seem to be there as much as it used to be. The defense, is underperforming still. They're still going to be competitive, still going to be good, but hopefully for them, this win propels them to start playing on the right track, and hopefully Michael Thomas can get back on the field.
Of course, and the main difference between this game and their last game with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were able to come back thoroughly in that game to end up with a touchdown or more lead, whereas the Chargers had to take it to overtime with a team that has looked subpar for the majority of the year. Now, keeping it with some other teams in the AFC West, the Raiders went on and shocked the world on Sunday with a victory against the reigning Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, handing them their first loss of the season. Patrick Mahomes did not seem to be himself. He had a passer rating of 83.5, but that's not the reason the Chiefs lost, as their defense gave up nearly 500 yards of total offense and multiple plays of 40-plus yards to the Raiders. Was this more of a statement for the Raiders or a sign of what's to come for the Chiefs?
Definitely more of a statement. I think, like I said before with the Bills, the Chiefs are a great team. It doesn't mean they're going to go 16-0. I think people have to realize that the teams that will eventually win the Super Bowl, they're going to lose 3 or 4, 5 or 6 games during the year. They're going to get upset. It's going to happen, especially in the division. But the Raiders look really good. The offense looked amazing, especially against the Chiefs defense, who had played well before against good offenses like Baltimore Ravens. Derek Carr was great. I think he's really showing that he can be their future quarterback. It was great to see Henry Ruggs out there. He is so fast and looks like he can really make some big plays in the future. And then, the defense has really surprised me. The Chiefs came out, really well. I thought this is how it's going to go. It'll be a high-scoring game, but the Raiders can't really keep up. But the Raiders made some huge defensive plays down the stretch. The Chiefs were the best team converting on 3rd and long. The Raiders shut them down. Made great pressure on Patrick Mahomes. They definitely missed Kelechi Osemele, who was out in the first quarter. So I think the Raiders are kind of the real deal too. They're another team that can sneak into the playoffs, or maybe not even sneak. Especially with the Broncos, in that division with the Broncos and Chargers not doing so well so far. I think they can definitely be really competitive.
Yeah, and I want to quickly touch on something that also happened this week. You had the Raiders scoring 40 points against the Chiefs compared to a team in the Baltimore Ravens who did not score nearly that much, and they had the reigning MVP Lamar Jackson. They made the playoffs last year. The Raiders did not. So what's the deal here? Is the Raiders offense that good, or maybe it's just quickly turning to the Ravens side of things, were they just not as prepared as the Raiders were for the Chiefs?
Well, every game is different. So certain team defenses are going to play better than other time. A certain safety is going to make better plays, in 1 week than you will the other week. But I think it definitely is more showing how good the Raiders offense can be. Because they can really establish the running game with Josh Jacobs. It opens up the offense so much more. And when you have a mix of a strong running game and a deep threat like Henry Ruggs and a secure tight end like Darren Waller, you can score a lot of points, and they showed that. And I think the Chiefs defense, I mean, partly was I don't think the Ravens did put up as much of a fight, but that could have been also because of a certain schemes that Steve Spagnuolo was throwing out that made it harder for the Ravens defense in particular, and not as hard for the Raiders.
Of course. Now, I want to quickly turn over to the fantasy portion of this week. I'm going to just quickly mention three players, teams that I think would be a great pickup this week in fantasy. Let's start with Chase Claypool of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, this goes without saying. In points per reception leagues this past week, he put up over 40 points and seems to have a strong connection with Big Ben Roethlisberger. But can that be sustained? The question is, this was his only game so far this year with more than 3 receptions. He had 7 this past week. So what's the deal here? Do you think that can be sustained, or is that just a 1-week thing for Chase Claypool?
Well, whenever you see someone score 4 touchdowns, you have to look for him in the waiver wire. And I think that this is a prime example, especially because Deontay Johnson is back and forth with injuries. He seems like he's, kind of an injury-prone player. That'll really help Chase Claypool getting way more receptions, a ton of more volume, especially for these big plays. It looks like there's enough shares to go around, even with Deontay Johnson's back. So I think he's definitely worth picking up.
And you also have James Washington there. Okay, so let's get past that. The Dolphins defense. This may not seem like a sexy pickup. However, the Dolphins put up 14 points against the 49ers this past week. They're facing the worst offense in the league with the Jets, and it doesn't look like the Jets are even trying to win this year. They just gave up Le'Veon Bell, releasing him a few days ago. What's up with the Miami defense this week? This seems like a clear start, but it's happened in the past where you pick up a defense or pick up any player because of the matchup, and you come to regret it later. So what's up with the Miami defense this week?
Well, first, I'd like to touch on what you said about Le'Veon Bell. I mean, I think that's just a blessing because, you're paying him so much. And if you're not going to put a good offensive line, and a good offense around him, or a good coach, matter of fact, there's no point in paying him. So I think they're really going to rebuild. It's smart to let him go, take that dead cap and just move on. In terms of the Dolphins defense, yes, if you're going against the Jets, you always got to go with that defense, especially a defense that's been playing really well. Like I said, they did a great job against the Niners, did a great job against other subpar teams like Jacksonville, and the Jets are exactly that. So I think it's a great matchup.
All right, perfect. And one more here. So Alexander Mattison of the Minnesota Vikings, while Madison's only averaging just above 8 points per game in PPR leagues, his average yards per attempt are quite impressive. Dalvin Cook is likely going to be out this week, and the Vikings are facing a Falcons defense that have so far been abysmal in all facets, in all components of their defense this year. Can Alexander Mattison be trusted in even a running back 2 or flex position this week?
Definitely. The Vikings are a team like the Cleveland Browns, team like the Indianapolis Colts that love to run the ball. They'll give it to Dalvin Cook, anywhere from between 22 to 27 times. And they'll do the same with Madison, maybe not as much, but in a game where they're going to control the clock, I think a game where they're the much better team, they can really run the ball down the Falcons' throat. And I totally expect Alexander Mattison to have a big game, possibly over 100 yards rushing. And I think it not just to pick him up for now, but for whenever Dalvin Cook is out in that offense, I think you want Madison.
Certainly a steady option, steady backup for the Vikings. All right. Well, thank you so much, Aaron. We really appreciate your time and hope to have you on in the future.
All right. Have a good one.
Thank you. All right. So that's going to wrap it up for this week. Thank you guys so much for watching the Blitz Talk Show. It would really mean a lot to us if you could like, comment, subscribe down below. We hope to see you guys in a couple of weeks, and thank you so much. Have a good one.